will now call the hearing to order. I need to read the call of the meeting. Honorable members of the City Council, in accordance with the Virginia Beach City Code, Section 2-21, and by the authority vested in me as Mayor of the City of Virginia Beach, I hereby call for a special formal session of the Virginia Beach City Council Wednesday, April 25th, 2018 at 6:30 p.m. Virginia Beach Convention Center, Ballroom 1, 1000 19th Street. The purpose of this special formal session is to conduct a public hearing to obtain public input regarding the fiscal year 2018-19 operating budget and capital improvement program, increase in the personal property tax rate, authorization of $72,208,245, and general obligation bonds, authorization of $30,077,044, and stormwater utility bonds, increase in local motor vehicle license fee, increase in local cigarette tax rate, increase in the solid waste management fee, and various planning fees. And this is signed by William D. Sessoms, Mayor, William D. Sessoms, Jr., Mayor. The City Council hereby declares a public hearing open for the matters of the fiscal year 2019 operating budget and capital improvement program, increase in the personal property tax rate effective January 1, 2019, authorization of $72,208,245 general obligation bonds, authorization of $30,077,044 stormwater utility bonds, increase in the local motor vehicle license fee effective July 1, 2018, increase in local cigarette tax rate effective June 1, 2018, increase in the solid waste management fee effective July 1, 2018, and various planning fee increases. Mrs. Abbott will not be with us this evening. Her child is not feeling well, and she's having to stay with the child. Speakers at this hearing will be provided 3 minutes to address the council. I will now ask the city clerk to call the first speaker.
The first speaker will be George Pilgrim, and the second speaker will be Michael Summers.
Mr. Vice Mayor, council members, I'm George Pilgrim. I live at 2200 Zia Drive, Virginia Beach. I recommend a realistic tax levy on privately owned pleasure boats and watercraft used for recreation. The current levy is 1/1,000,000th of 1 cent of $100 assessed value of the boat. So a $100,000 pleasure boat is assessed at 1/1000th of a penny. So boat owners really pay no taxes. In comparison, a $100,000 commercial fishing boat is assessed at $1,500 every year. Of course, boats need navigable waterways, and the city has provided millions of dollars over the years to dredge channels in Lynnhaven, Rudy Inlets, and other parts of Lynnhaven Bay. Now, the millions of dollars that were spent dredging were not acquired from assessment of boat owners. Instead, those dollars came from taxpayers in Virginia Beach to keep the waterways navigable for the pleasure boat community. There are more than 10,000 boats in the city, and it'll cost more than $3 million next year to dredge channels, so those boats don't run aground. But city's tax rate is so structured in favor of boat owners that they'll pay nothing to offset the costs. But we in Virginia Beach will be facing even higher costs in the future. In budget year 2020, taxpayers will see a considerable rise in total dredging costs with the purchase of a $5 million dredging machine. The previous city manager cited a need to establish a steady funding source for critical projects such as dredging. Taxpayers really need counsel to be fair and equitable in this matter. Let the owners of pleasure boats enjoy the benefits of navigable waterways provided by dredging at Rudy and Lynn Haven, but not at the expense of those who have no access to those benefits. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Michael Summers, and then George Donnelly.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of City Council, Mr. City Manager. I'm Mike Summers. I'm a proud resident of the city. I live in the Thorogood section of the city. I also run the Virginia Beach campus of TCC. But tonight I have on my hat as chair of our Public Library Board. I want to thank you for your support of our first-class library system. The roughly $18 million supports a remarkable range of services, from providing records management for all city offices to voter registration, from allowing our citizens to check out over 2.5 million items last year to customized small business assistance, from almost 1,900 adult programs to music and movies for our youth, from a career online high school program to a partnership with the Virginia Beach Master Gardeners, where we are on target to distribute 30,000 packets of seeds to citizens of our city. We have more than 400,000 library card holders, and even do one-on-one coaching and resume assistance for our citizens. This past year, we had 370,000 items downloaded electronically from our libraries. And we still, every year, provide a whole host of intensive computer and technology training classes. The quality of life in our city is truly enhanced by our public library system, and I do appreciate your continued support. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
George Donnelly, and then Sophia Miklas.
Good evening, Council. I'm here to oppose the trash fee hike and also the personal property tax hike. Trash fee hike started a few years ago when you started at $10, and once that came out, I told all my friends and everybody I knew that that was just your chance to get into our pockets, and then you would increase it immediately. In the following year, you proved me as a fortune teller and multiplied it double. Now you're asking for more money. Problem is, you have $1 million on the Lesnar Bridge late fee that you refuse to collect, and now you're trying to vote to allow that contractor to forgive that $1 million debt. Believe me, I work with contractors, and not one contractor will ever forgive the taxpayers if they can get into our pockets for $1 million. Collect that $1 million, you got your $1 million for the tax fee. Also, for the personal property tax, although I don't blame you, I blame Governor Gilmore for not finishing out the phase tax, because I knew if he gave you a loophole, you would actually try to increase it on a regular basis, and you would prove us correctly again. Our money is not for you to do as you will. Our money is do what's necessary for us citizens. Our money is not for you to give to your contractor friends. Our money is not to subsidize kindergarten, which is technically daycare, as subsidized by the taxpayer. I have no kids, therefore I don't want to pay that. I know they don't. They say they can't afford to pay for the kindergarten and child care. Well, I can't either. I don't have kids for that reason. Figure out how you're going to spend our money wisely, and then you won't have to work so much to keep getting our pockets every year. I guarantee if you made a rule that every time the budget grew, made a budget to increase fees, that they took 20% from their pay, I guarantee they would figure out how to make a budget without increasing fees every year. It's a common occurrence. Thank you for your time.
Sophia Miklas, and then Rona Marsh.
Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council, I'm thankful for the opportunity to talk to you today. I am a volunteer in the Teen Advisory Group at the Kempsville Library, and both of my sisters have been as well for a sum of 7 years. Thank you for funding our libraries. Sorry. If the library system wasn't funded, it couldn't have helped all of the people that the VBPL branches have helped. I have grown so much through the library's teen services. I've developed teamwork skills that I hadn't had before, and I wouldn't have met any of the amazing people that I've met without the libraries and the events they hold. Our amazing librarians have done a wonderful job in creating a comfortable space. And so I'd like to thank you and commend you for funding our amazing library system, and here's to hopefully many more years of funding it well.
Thank you.
Rona Marsh, and after Mrs. Marsh will be Bobby Vaughn.
Good evening, Vice Mayor and council members and City Manager Hanson. I am here to speak in favor of the alternative budget that I've been hearing about that's being proposed by council people, councilpersons Moss, Abbott, and Dyer. It takes a step towards reducing the tax increases that you are all putting forward with the city manager's budget. I am opposed to the city manager's budget as it stands because it increases taxes too much. I have studied over these lengthy copies. They are lengthy, believe me, and it takes a lot of time to look through them and figure out what you can talk about for 3 minutes. But when I see all these proposed increases that you run in the Beacon, and I wish you would run them online so we could find them more easily, but there's many, many increases. Everything is increasing. And it's really upsetting because we already have $1.22 billion in debt. This is a page actually from your, it's page 299 of the operating budget. And I want to hold it up so you can see that the debt service by fund adds up annually to $166 million. That is a lot of money to be paying for the debt service. When you add to that the $55 million to pay down the unfunded pension liabilities, which I have spoken to you about on several times because I'm very concerned that we have unfunded pension liabilities of $1.3 billion, and the debt, the total debt of $1.22 billion and the unfunded pension liabilities adds up towards $2.7 billion. And we as taxpayers are putting out the door every day to pay down the pension liabilities that haven't been funded and this debt service, $605,479 every single day. Every single day. And so when you propose spending more money on something like the resort amenities that are going to be $192 million, I look at that and I look at page 327 of the CIP, and I see that it's going to be funded not by the tourism investment program, which everyone talks about, because these are all goose eggs. These are all zeros in your budget. But it's all going to be funded by the public finance, public facility revenue bonds, the PFRBs. The PFRBs are the bonds we do not get to vote on as taxpayers. They're done backdoor through the VBDA. The charter says $10 million, and you should let us vote. Well, you've got this arrangement with the VBDA where you pay their bills and they issue the bonds. Somehow, all these bonds that the VBDA is issuing needs to come to an end because we need to get to a budget that doesn't raise taxes on taxpayers so much every single year. And I think that's my time is up.
Yes, ma'am.
So, thank you.
Bobby Vaughn, and after Mr. Vaughn is Diana Howard.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The Honorable Louis Jones, Vice Mayor. I've seen you around before. And the Honorable members of Council. And Mr. Dave Hanson. Nice to see you. I'm Bobby Vaughn, President of Virginia Beach Farm Bureau. You're probably wondering why I'm beating a dead horse to death. I'm not doing that. I'm going to give you some accolades. I called Barbara when I got back in town Monday morning and said, I don't need to be here. She said, well, at least you can come and thank him. Well, by golly, I can. being a part of city and state budgets for 30 years. Those weren't the real happiest times during the year, I will say that. We represent over 2,200 Farm Bureau members in Virginia Beach. We wish to thank Mayor Sessoms, and I can understand him not being here, Mrs. Henley and members of council, and Mr. Hanson and his staff for their tireless efforts in the drafting of an acceptable proposal that works best for everyone in the city. No one is an island, but together we can foster change that is best for the future of our young city. Thanks to the leadership of Mayor Sessoms and his political savviness to listen to every side and finding that common ground approach that is so sadly missing in politics today. His leadership will be greatly missed and hard to replace. So on behalf of the board of the Virginia Beach Farm Bureau, we wish Mayor Sessoms and his family the very best. It's been a pleasure knowing and working with him and his staff. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Diana Howard, and after Mrs. Howard is George Bryant.
Hello, my name is Diana Howard, and I'm the chair of the Virginia Beach Tea Party, and we oppose this budget because we are taxed enough already. Amazingly, today, I was watching the news, and it said today was the official start of hurricane season. Also, the governor said that we should all buy flood insurance. So it just seemed ironic to me that we have a budget that doesn't prioritize the stormwater. Although I do applaud the city manager for putting in his budget, diverting the agriculture reserve program funds to go to stormwater projects, and I'm sure you'll all approve of that since you already approved of it, to go for light rail. And stormwater projects are certainly more important than light rail, and we do have a lot of neighborhoods and homes that, you know, were affected at Hurricane Matthew in the Princess Anne district, so I'm sure Ms. Henley would be in favor of that, you know, because of the Asheville and Sherwood area needing that money as well. And so one of the things I looked at the budget, every year they always have the impact on the family of four. And this year the impact on the family of four is $92. It seems a little bit to you all, but it is a lot for some people. But if you look back 7 years, the last 7 years, you have increased it every year. And it goes anywhere from an impact of $85 to an impact of over $200. So would you be surprised to know that cumulatively you've increased it, or taxes, to over $1,000 a year? Now, a lot of us, that's a lot of money. We don't get a lot of increase in our disposable income every year. You know, we have increases in health care like everybody else does. We may not have gotten a great cost of living increase, or might be retired and not getting a lot of Social Security, living off a budget. So that's a lot of money. And so that was one thing. So the stormwater fees, you're raising the stormwater fees, but in the CIP, there's only $8 million going to stormwater projects every year. So we're increasing that money, so that must be going to hire more people for stormwater, right? So hopefully that maybe they can get to do some of the inspections on drains, because I'm for the Adopt a Drain program, right? But we can't tell by looking at a drain whether it's actually clogged or collapsed in some people's cases, because we had some people that had crushed drains, right? By just looking at it and making sure nothing goes in there. So until it floods, we don't know, right? So I find it odd that our waste management people can dump the entire city of Virginia Beach, 450,000 residents, in a week, but we can't get 59 basins and manhole covers inspected in a year, and they don't even know which ones they've inspected and which ones they've done. Is that a warning, or is that over? Oh, it's over?
That's over.
So we support the Moss Abbott Dyer budget.
George Bryant, and after Mr. Bryant is Dane Blythe.
Vice Mayor Jones, members of council, Mr. Hanson. I'm George Bryant. I've lived in Wolf Snare Plantation for 50 years. My big concern with the current city, with the budget, and is the debt and the possibility of additional debt mentioned in the executive summary. Sunday's Beacon not only contained a scaled-down version of the proposed $2+ billion operating budget and $396.6 million capital budget, it included adds for more than $72.2 million in additional debt and increases in various taxes and fees contained in the spending plan. I assume this new debt is on top of the city's combination of nearly $3 billion in existing debt and unfunded pension and health care liabilities, for which we're paying more than $500,000 every day in interest. This debt and the mentioned unfunded liabilities are only part of my concern. When reading the executive summary, there is a mention of $3.4 billion in unfunded road and school projects and the possibility of an as-yet unscheduled referendum to increase taxes to pay for these projects. The size of the backlog of the road and school projects alone tells me that we're not in good shape, or not in as good a shape as the city manager and the council would like us to believe. Funding these projects will more than double the city's debt and place an outrageous burden on the taxpayers, who for the most part struggle each week to make ends meet. I know that we have a AAA bond rating and they'll let us have all the money we want. I have a good credit rating. If I took advantage of it, I couldn't live very well. Finding the existing debt, along with the aforementioned road and school projects, will substantially increase the price of living in Virginia Beach. While I don't have a solution to the debt problem, I hope that the council will step back and take a tough look at where we're headed. One thing for sure, we can't keep handing tax money to developers with the existing debt and the debt we face in the future. This proposed budget is also based on an overall increase in real estate assessments, which amounts to yet another tax increase in addition to the fees and taxes mentioned in the Beacon ads. The overall budget increase of 2.4% is greater than increases in income for most taxpayers. I've worked hard to run my life debt-free, but our governments at all levels can't seem to borrow and spend fast enough. This must change, or living standards for all will continue to decline, and right here in River City as well. Thank you.
Dave Blythe, and after Mr. Blythe is Ray Ching.
Good evening, members of City Council. My name is Dane Bly, and tonight I'm representing the Budget Committee of the Virginia Beach Tea Party. Year after year, we call on you to make cost-conscious decisions regarding the city budget and to keep the hardworking families in our community front and center in your deliberations. And we remain ever hopeful that one of these years you're going to pass a budget that's free of tax and fee increases. So other members of the committee have spoken, and others will speak on some other ideas, but tonight I'd like to focus on a few ideas regarding transparency and good government. And the first is we'd like to see a page devoted on the city's website to keep track of debt, including the VBDA's debt as well. Secondly, Goochland County has an online check register, and their citizens can easily monitor both the school and their county spending. It's a simple way for all of us to hold one another accountable. I sent them an email, and their Director of Financial Services, Barbara Orlacher, responded to my questions, and she wrote back saying, quote, "I'm writing in response to your inquiry about our online check register and credit card activities report. We've been doing it for several years, and the process was not too difficult. We would be glad to discuss our processes with representatives of Virginia Beach government if they are interested." So we strongly encourage you to take her up on that offer. And then third and finally, we suggest you impanel an independent group to analyze our tourism industry and its true impact on the local economy and on the general fund. We also think it's a good idea that you exempt Virginia Beach residents from the amusement tax, since 100% that flows to the tip fund anyway. So this change could also provide some real data on what percentage tourists are paying towards the tip fund, and also give us a real good idea on exactly what percentage we residents are actually paying for tourism-related spending. I know there's been a lot of back and forth on that over the years, but I think the time's coming to have a good independent panel actually take that up and run with it. So let me be clear, we support a healthy and prosperous tourism industry and a level playing field for competition, but we adamantly oppose you handing over millions of our tax dollars to favored developers at the oceanfront. It's going to take a lot more than Ferris wheels and fireworks to drive economic growth in Virginia Beach. We question the economic rationale of this focus on tourism-related spending of public money. So we remain concerned that our kids will continue moving out of the city in search of better career opportunities and higher pay in cities where there are dynamic and innovative industries like scientific R&D and life sciences are located. Today, innovation sectors are the driving force for good, high-paying jobs and thriving communities in the United States. So let's make it happen here in Virginia Beach. Thank you.
Ray Ching, and after Mr. Ching is Paul Day.
Good evening. My name is Ray Chang, and I'm the president of Virginia Beach Spark Education Association. We are a group of parents, teachers, and other concerned citizens supporting high civic and academic standards, personal accountability, and fiscal responsibility. I would like to talk about the high costs of construction, particularly construction of new schools. Now, I understand that this is a separate budget, but ultimately that money comes from our pockets and goes through City Council. The following dollar figures were obtained from the City Public Schools website and the Virginia Department of Education website. Let me start with Kellam High School, which had a total cost of $102 million. The cost per pupil, $55,000, compared to the statewide average, $35,000. The cost per square foot, $303. Statewide average, $175. We even outspent Loudoun County, which has more than double our median income. Let me go to Old Donation, Brickell Academy. Total cost was $63 million. Cost per pupil, $46,000. Let's compare with Campus Della K-8 STEM School in Norfolk, 25. So that's 25 versus our 46. Cost per square foot for us was $281. Cost per square foot for them, $148. For Thorogood Elementary, total cost was $28 million. Cost per pupil, $41,000. Compare that to $29,000 statewide. Cost per square foot is $301. Statewide average, $199. I have one more to go. Princess Anne Middle School, the total cost was $78 million. Cost per pupil, $53,000. Statewide average, $36,000. Cost per square foot, $354. Statewide average, $201. As you can see, we are spending 1.5 to 2 times the statewide average per pupil and per square foot. I ask the city to help look for cost savings, which could go to other priorities such as teacher salaries, school safety, and my favorite, tax relief. Thank you very much.
Paul Day, and after Mr. Day will be Debbie Improvento.
Good evening, members of City Council. My name is Paul Day. I'm a retired 27-year veteran of the Virginia Beach Police Department. I'm also a candidate for the school board representing the Princess Anne District. I'm here on behalf of the entire body of students, staff, teachers, food service workers, and custodians at the elementary level. I'm requesting that this board encourage the school board to set aside a budget for security at the elementary level. The solution is very simple. Hire retired police officers, deputy sheriffs to work at our elementary schools and to provide them with the same security that middle and high school receive, as well as the members who sit on this council and school board members. I had proposed to the school board in the past that if we hired 2 retired law enforcement officers per school, that would be approximately $1.6 million, a very small amount compared to our $700 million budget. This was based on the salary that current retired officers receive at the school administration building. The city, since they are working part-time, wouldn't have to pay for benefits such as health care, overtime, personal vacation, or sick leave. The logistics is very easy to implement. One officer would work Mondays and Tuesdays, another officer works Thursdays and Fridays, and on Wednesdays they alternate it every other week. Very simple. Retired officers already qualify yearly with their service weapon. That's one less piece of equipment that the city would have to purchase. We have the resources, now we just need to implement a plan. Superintendent Dr. Aaron Spence and the members of the division newly created Blue Ribbon Panel on school safety and security. He says, quote, "We know our schools are safe places. We have people and resources in place to ensure that. This Blue Ribbon Panel will build upon that strong foundation by bringing together some of the area's top security experts and community leaders to deeply examine our current systems and to recommend ways to improve our practices. Hearing from our community is an important part of that work. I beg to differ. We are not safe. We are very vulnerable at all levels, especially at the elementary levels. We are spending millions of dollars on schools in this city, and we need to use some of those funds to shore up the middle and elementary schools to make them safe and secure for our students, not just building a $102 million high school. I've also been a school resource officer for 5 years at Lansdowne High School. I was a DARE officer, and I also have been substituting in the city of Virginia Beach Public Schools since 2009. And I can assure you the majority of our schools are not safe. Remember, we might have resource officers at the middle school and the high school, but they take leave, they go on vacation, they have training, and they go to court. So there's a lot of times those schools aren't even manned. I'm trying to just get officers in the elementary level and build from there. Our top security experts can be located at 2509 Prince Anne Road. We don't need outside sources. We need our people that are working here in this city. These are men and women who worked at our schools on a daily basis, as well as the Sheriff's Department. They are provided with all the emergency plans in case of an active shooter. The access control boxes are already in place at each school. We just need to utilize the equipment we have in place. We have some schools that have a pilot program regarding our access control panels. Scrap the pilot program and start implementing these access control panels at all schools. Let's stop wasting our time on committees and meetings to have a meeting.
Sir.
We know what needs to be done.
Sir.
We have the resources. Now we just need to implement a plan. Thank you.
Debbie Improviento, and after Mrs. Improviento is Taylor Justine.
Hi, my name's Debbie Improviento. I'm here to address the budget. Surely $174 million for the oceanfront projects and zero for maintenance of stormwater runoff infrastructure in Buchanan Creek, tributary of the western branch of the Lynnhaven River, is an oversight. We've lived here about 4 years. We liked it because it was next to the creek, and we liked paddleboard and we liked kayak. We thought we did our due diligence. Who thinks to ask if there's an unlined, unmonitored landfill upstream less than 50 feet from tidal water? Thank God the sea is not rising. That would be a bummer, having to deal with rising polluted water. Yuck. Today, we know that the section of the Lynnhaven River was filled in, so the dedicated drainage easement given to the city in the subdivision plat of Malibu Section 5 is not the same in Malibu Section 7, now known as Kings Forest. No one noticed this because the soil had to settle. No houses were built on our side of the creek until 18 years later. By this time, whatever the easement said was buried. Excuse me. I can see why Deputy City Manager Thomas Leahy would say the creek was man-made, privately owned single parcel. If the issue has never come up before and no one has looked at the other subdivision plats, there would be no reason to believe anything different. I'm going to wrap this up by saying we still need your help. There are 6 storm outfalls that discharge into the creek behind Blue Marlin Circle alone. This area is a wetland and it is being destroyed. The velocity of the water during storms and rains is much greater than the area can handle. The creek banks are about 5 to 8 feet high. The tree roots are the only things keeping them stable. The high water is eroding the banks, causing the trees to fall. Each time a tree falls, so does a piece of someone's yard. It is causing major erosion of our properties. It also is setting us up for future flooding. Further upstream, Buchanan Creek is very expansive and can handle more water. Where we are, it's about 50 foot wide. The storm outfalls are half full with sediment now at low tide. During high tide, they are 100% underwater. During periods of rain, the water level in the creek rises. This not only leaves us in harm's way, it leaves all the neighborhoods that drain back here in harm's way. Where is all the water supposed to go? I'm very sure that this system was efficient when they created it. It probably still would be if it had been maintained. The issue needs to be addressed now. We can't continue to let this get worse by turning a blind eye and pretending no one knows about it. If we as a city are going to continue to use the waterways as the cornerstone of our stormwater management system, we need to maintain them. The waterways are like our veins. If our veins are clogged or our blood is polluted, we get them cleaned or we die. Do we really want to kill our planet? We would like the budget to be amended to include maintenance of this channel. It is part of the public...
Ma'am, your time's up.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, could we ask the young lady if she could leave a copy of her written remarks with the city clerk so they could be transcribed?
Please, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
I'll take it if you don't mind, ma'am. Okay. Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry. Taylor Justine. And then after Mrs. Justine, it'll be Joe Wool.
Hi, my name's Taylor. Thank you for allowing me to talk to you all tonight. I'm here because I live in Kings Forest, a neighborhood that consists of 304 homes. We're tucked in Buchanan Creek, which is on the western side. The creek separates us from Malibu, Birchwood, and Thalia Shores. On the eastern side, the creek separates us from Kings Forest. I'm here to ask that you incorporate maintenance of this waterway into the budget. It hasn't been mentioned yet, but water quality is another concern. There are 6 outfalls behind Blue Marlin Circle alone. That is a lot of stormwater being discharged to these surface waters. What control measures are utilized at the point of discharge to determine what is non-point surface pollution versus point source? Are there any? How does this impact the city's total maximum daily load required by the Chesapeake Bay Preservation Act? LRN conducted some water samples for us. The samples were taken right at the end of our dock, and the E. coli was over 17,000. It should be 225 milliliters per 100. When we asked how this is in compliance with the Clean Water Act, we were told the city was grandfathered and could do what they wanted. Dave Hansen indicated that the city's municipal separate storm sewer system, which is called MS4, terminates at the stormwater outfalls. The canal and downstream creek are considered state and federal waters and are not within the city's MS4 system. That doesn't make sense. An MS4 permit is designed to regulate the amount of pollution being discharged to state waters. Based on that, wouldn't every water in the city be exempt from the federal law that requires an MS4 permit? Because every water is ultimately state water. We think some of this confusion is because the water behind our house is not Buchanan Creek. It is the branch of the Lynnhaven River channel. Turns out that all 6 subdivision plats have a different name for what we thought was Buchanan Creek. DEQ and the EPA have different names for it. Even Google has a different name for it. So I have 2 questions for you. Can someone please update Google? And 2, how do you know what the water quality really is when you don't know the name of the water? Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe Wool, and after Mr. Wool will be James Taylor. Joe Wool. James Taylor. And after Mr. Taylor will be John Kutsha.
Good evening, City Council and the City Manager. My name is James Taylor. I moved to Virginia Beach in 1983. Started working for the city in 1986 when I retired from the Navy and retired from the police department in 2004. Originally started working as a designer and developer for Joint Cable TV Center, which was the initial TV operation for the city of Virginia Beach. So I've had some background with the city council, and the city government. My problem right now is I really have a concern that the city council does not understand what their priorities are to the city and the citizens of Virginia Beach. As far as I'm concerned, the #1 priority for all the city council people should be the safety of all the people in Virginia Beach. And that includes fire, rescue, police, and infrastructure. Right now, you guys are getting between $38 and $40 million a year in stormwater fees. That's not a tax. That's a fee. And when you charge the people a fee for doing something, the people have the right to expect it to be getting done. And so far, it hasn't. And I got a letter It's 4 pages here trying to answer some of my questions I sent into the city before on this thing from Mr. Leahy. And they basically told me to go online, research it myself. That's not the right answer. If I have to go to the FBI and file a federal investigation for this operation, I will. There's over $1 billion of stormwater fees that cannot be properly accounted for. So right now, 10 years ago, you guys should have started working on doing what you're doing today. Not 10 years late after the flood. I had 3 feet of water in my house and $90,000 worth of damage I'm still trying to recover from. And now then, you guys don't seem to have your priorities right. You're doing all this development, all this other social infrastructure stuff for the city, when the number one priority is the city's safety and the safety of the people. And it's not getting done as far as I can see. And I think it's time we start re-looking at where we need to start spending the money first. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
John Kutsha, and after Mr. Kutsha is Barbara Messner.
Ladies and gentlemen, I don't think that I am not representative of the anger that the taxpayers are feeling. Somehow or another, over the last decade, we've managed to dig ourselves a close to $3 billion hole. Almost equal parts of debt and unfunded pension liabilities. Where did the city council manage to squander over $1 billion of regular pension payments that should have been going into the pension fund? I mean, sure, we hear that we're $1.3 billion underfunded in the pension fund. Where in the heck where did that money go? Why are we having to play catch up to the tune of over $600,000 per day in interest payments and payments to try to get the unfunded pension liabilities? I mean, $600,000, people in this audience understand that number. Their homes are worth a lot of money, they've got pensions. So the thought of over $500,000, over $600,000 per day resonates with them. They understand it. And I think many people are asking, what the heck? Where did that go? All of these wonderful investments that the council is making on our behalf should be generating a positive return on investment, ROI. Why are our tax bills going up if you're making great investments for us? It doesn't make sense. Our tax bills keep going up instead of going down. The 3-word message is simple: stop the spending.
Barbara Messner, and after Mrs. Messner will be Jake Klazowski.
Good evening, council, staff, and Virginia Beach residents. I'm sorry, but I can't support an alternative budget by 1 or 2 people. There are 11 votes on city council, and these people do not show up to every meeting. I don't know if people know that no one's required to come to council meetings. They can just take off whenever they want. I asked the deputy city attorney if this budget, which includes several parcels of city-owned land, would require a supermajority 9-2 vote. Moss's alternative budget didn't pass in 2015. It was called revenue neutral. There have been alternative budgets for 8 years. People have to show up and they have to second resolutions and it has to go to a vote. the Virginia Beach Economic Development Authority, the day after Moss, Henley, and Lewis Jones voted to cancel the arena project, council went to the Economic Development Authority, which we pay rent there, and then they brought back the arena deal, and now they're suing us for $140 million. You can't sue for $140 million if you've never paid a penny. All budgets that get passed, they get raided by City Council and amended. Anybody that reads all the agendas knows that they change it constantly. All these new projects are on city land. All 5 are in the resort area, Vibe District, Entertainment District, and it's not even on the agenda about the municipal center. Those are not basic needs and should not be your priority. Entertainment is not a function of city government, especially when it's only at the oceanfront to fill hotel rooms year-round. Moss, Dyer, Davenport, and Abbott all marched in protest against the very city government they are members of. February 2017, with developer Bruce Smith, Black Lives Matter, NAACP, and Gary McCullum. Why didn't any of you march against all corruption and all bid rigging? And why wasn't the winning bid for the wool supply company accepted? $12,000 was denied, and then they're supposed to come back and bid again. If the ball is really in the taxpayers, okay. All right. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Jake Kozowski. Mac Rawls. And then after Mr. Rawls will be Arafa.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor and members of City Council, for allowing me this opportunity to appear before you. I'm here on behalf of the Historic Preservation Commission, City of Virginia Beach. We would like to recommend to you that you include funding in the budget for a shuttle system to be operated on Port Story, particularly to carry people to the lighthouse and other attractions there on Cape Henry Historic Site. As you probably know, there are 4 main parties involved in the operation of the Cape Henry Historic Site. One is Preservation Virginia, which since 1930 has owned and operated the lighthouse and made it available to the public. The other is the military, whose properties surround the lighthouse, of course, have a great deal of control over what happens there. Another main party is the city, and we're the main advertiser of the lighthouse. We're also the main tourism beneficiary of the lighthouse. It has been I think our second most attractive tourist facility over the last 20 years or so. Another party is the Virginia Beach Preservation Commission, and our job is to more or less protect the history down there at the Cape Henry Historic Site. That's interesting. This year, or actually for the last 2 years, these 4 groups have gotten together. We communicate frequently. We communicate well. And that has not been the case in the past. We all have willing partners who are able to respect the other's needs. And we have come up at times with some very good solutions. Our greatest problem, and this is all 4 have this problem, and that is trying to deal with access and security. The 2 fight each other often as far as that base is concerned. I don't know if you have been down there lately, but in addition to the 5-minute delay that you have when they search your car underneath, as well as glove compartment, trunk, and motor compartment, etc., they're now going to require you to leave your driver's license at the gate. And this is understandable. This assures that they know who leave as well as who comes into the facility. It's understandable, but it still takes a fair amount of time, and it's still going to be a further deterrent, I think, for people to go visit the Cape Henry Historic Site. The 4 groups that I mentioned before have come up with a proposal, and I'm very proud of us as to how we came to it. Again, it was done collectively, and I think with compromises on parts of all the parties involved. It's a shuttle system for $210,000, which I'd like for you to put into the budget. Thank you very
Mr.
much.
Ross.
Erica? Yes, ma'am. And then after would be William Shea Dortch.
Where do homeless people go when there's nowhere to go? I want to thank Wendy's on First Colonial, because that's where I go and I make my jewelry. Since the winter shelter program has ended over here, the lighthouse right up here, there's a lot of homeless people in the street your age. Not you, well, you too, but the older folks. So I want you to put aside the political thing and look at the human issue. And ultimately, we want everyone who's listening, which is why I'm here, to bus us to Oprah so that we will have an opportunity to introduce the works that we are known for that you don't know about. You're not going to know about as long as you keep feeding and clothing us. So Wendy's, thank you. And the budget does not ever consider the needs of people as we describe. We're not in there. Everybody else makes decisions for our lives. And I really wish we all had more than 3 minutes. This space I would like to see used for America's Homeless Got Talent. Okay, and I believe you're the council member, and I dare not try to pronounce your name. If you can help me, John E., I'm going to call you. I would like you to come and spend some time with us at the Lighthouse and listen to what we have to say. Anytime a 63-year-old great-grandmother cannot volunteer to bring 8 boxes of cold cereal, milk, and bananas to serve people like myself. They call us homeless. We don't call ourselves that. But there is a budget for homelessness to the tune of billions of dollars, so I'll use that. And they call the police on you and tell you you should go to the Star of the Sea to get something to eat when you have food right here. Something is wrong. It's not that people don't want to deal with policy. It's some policy just doesn't make sense. So I am asking God, who brought me here, okay, to redeem me from my, it's cold in here. It's freezing. I am really shivering, not from nervousness, but because it's cold, okay. That we need to do something to incorporate the voices of homeless people, and we need to go out there tonight and look and see who's hanging out at Walmart, who's hanging out at McDonald's that closed about midnight. That's the latest, the restaurant stays open. And then where do they go from there? We have human beings on the street. We're talking about money, we're talking about budget, but we have people that have resources within their hands. If we take every student in the school system in the state of Virginia, let's say 2 million students, okay? If everybody gets $1, we can get what used to be Admiral Sines building, 625A. Let's make it happen. Thank you.
William Shea Dortch. And after Mr. Dortch is Paul Scherer.
Hello, I'm a city employee. I work for the fire department. I was here last year to speak about my pay disparity issue. I had people hired and promoted after me that made exponentially more money than I did, and I believe y'all voted to somewhat fix my situation. I was given the raise that I earned 10 years later, but without compounding interest. It became a bigger issue, and so I was given what I was given. Well, fast forward, the same problem has occurred. I have people that were hired and promoted after me that now are making exponentially more money than me again. It's affected my retirement, and it's affected the amount of income that I bring into my house every day. I have over 10 years with the fire department as a captain, and we have people that were literally promoted 2 weeks ago that are actually making more money than me. So that's my issue. The other issue is we have current firefighters that we will hire in the next 6 to 8 months that will not make what master firefighters made 10 years ago because of the way the pay structure is set up and the way the raises are actually handed out. It's very easy to do, add up 1 to 2% across a base salary of $53,000. They will never hit $75,000 to $79,000 like some of the current master firefighters are making now and have been making for over 10 years. So you have employees that you're hiring today that will retire 10 to 20 years from now that do not make what employees were making 10 years ago. How is that possible? It's not a living wage. We're not paying a living wage, nor are we giving appreciable raises that make it a living wage. This has been a complete erosion that we've seen since 2006 of the city employee, and it's really affecting us. It's a problem that's been grossly exaggerated with micro raises here and there, select groups, select employees, and now it's across the board. It is so bad. We have probably 4 people tonight that are going to speak on that it also personally affects them across, I believe 81 plus captains were skipped last week when this employee was actually promoted. So if you look at the outliers on the master firefighter and firefighter scale, when you're seeing this number up here, that's the outliers. If you take the mean and the whole gross, it is well below what the actual pay should be. It's very low. I'm here tonight to say 3% is a start. It's not going to get us there. It won't even get us close to there. The pay study is great, but it's going to be too late. That's one of these things. We can't wait 6 months, 8 months, 9 months. We've waited 10, 12, 14 years for some of these raises to come. Tonight we're increasing budget. A lot of these people live in the city. So what little raise we were given or what we have been given is being totally eroded again by the taxes. Until we are given appreciable raises and there's a pay plan put in place, this is going to continue to happen. So that's what I come here to speak about tonight, and thank you.
Thank you, sir.
David Scherer, and after Mr. Scherer will be William Bailey.
Good evening, Vice Mayor, council members, city manager. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak to you. I'm not going to say anything that's surprising to anybody. I've been a firefighter in the city for 10 years. This is the 10th year that I've come to budget meetings. It's the 10th year that we're talking about pay compression. Okay, we're compressed horizontally, we're compressed vertically. The only person that's not compressed in our organization right now is the firefighter recruit that's in the academy. We haven't received raises over the years. We continue to do our job. We went through lean times with the city. Chief Cover asked us to cut 5% out of all of our expenses in the fire department year after year. We met those expectations. We thought by doing that and working as hard as we could to continue to deliver the services that we do, that in the end, when things got better, that we would be recognized for our efforts. We don't feel we're being recognized. We, along with police, EMS, we are the people that work to make this city safe, and I think we do a pretty good job. You all brag about how safe the city is, how it's great for visitors to come here, how they feel safe. We're the men and women that are doing that all the time. We're just looking for a little bit of respect. You know, when it comes to health care, we get 2% raise, but our health care goes through the roof. I don't know if anybody really up here knows what we pay. I paid $9,600 last year for health care. I have a nephew who's in the Suffolk Fire Department. He paid half of that. He has 4 kids, I have 2. He has a wife. His coverage is better than mine. How is it Suffolk can offer a better health care system than Virginia Beach? Chesapeake offers a pharmacy for their employees, which cuts down on cost. We don't have that. When you start paying deductibles, it kills you. I mean, I go from check to check. That's the way it is. I've been here for 10 years. It's the same thing every year we're talking about. We're talking about doing a study this year. I think we have the plan studied. I think we have everything that needs to be known. We just need to make the effort to have it happen, to fix it once and for all. Thank you.
William Bailey, and then after Mr. Bailey is Andrew Conlon.
William Bailey, President, Virginia Beach Firefighters. First, we'll start off with the good stuff. I want to thank Council for the new fire stations, new fire trucks, new apparatus, new turnout gear. All of those things that you have provided to us make our job safer, and we truly appreciate that. Now we'll go to the bad side. This is my 17th year coming in here to talk to you about compression. It was the very first thing I wrote to you about back in 1999, and it's probably going to be the last thing I'm going to write to you about. But it's an important matter. Horizontal and vertical compression, all across the board, it is the #1 subject within the organization every day. Even in the police department, the EMS department, it is a continual battle just to keep people positively motivated to get them to do their jobs. We're lucky that our personnel are type A personalities, and they want to do the job, they want to serve the citizens, but they deserve a living wage. They deserve a wage that they know where they're going to be in the future, and they deserve a wage that allows them a comfortable life with their family in the city of Virginia Beach. Second thing I want to talk to you about is AEMT pay. That's a fund stream I'd like about $150,000 that if could be added to the budget. Our guys who have AEMT skills are a level above the basic firefighter in the department now. That's the new standard in the department is EMT-B. Our guys who are EMT-A have a higher certification. They recertify more often, and they should be rewarded for those skills. I don't think that we're asking too much. The city of Norfolk already provides their AEMTs funding for those skills. We're the only group here in Virginia Beach that doesn't get that, and I'd like you to provide that if you can. Last but not least, I just want to thank you again. I'm going to support the budget, but some modifications. Please focus on compression because top to bottom, the organization's hurting, and we need your support. Thank you very much.
Andrew Conlon, and after Mr. Conlon's Christine Underwood.
Good evening. I know you've heard a lot from the Virginia Beach Fire Department. In large part, you've heard from officers and captains who have to deal with compression pay issues. I'm not an officer, I'm not a captain. It doesn't directly affect me in that way. Felt like it might be worth it to hear a perspective from somebody that's been in a little less than they have. The city of Virginia Beach has invested a lot of money in me. The recruitment process, the hiring process, the academy, outfitting, training, equipment, there's a large price tag on a firefighter. The idea is you've invested that money in me, and I'm going to spend the next 25 years of my career responding to 911 calls in the city of Virginia Beach. I can tell you a large number of people that are in the next generation of firefighters are watching what's happening watching what's going on with the issue with compressions, with not getting pay raises. I can tell you 1/3 of my academy class in less than 5 years has left the city of Virginia Beach. They're not taking jobs in the private sector. They're going to other cities. They're being hired by other fire departments. The investment that you have made in those firefighters, they're responding to 911 calls in other cities, which I'm sure are glad to have them for less money. Your next generation of firefighters is watching what's happening, and they're leaving. Thank you.
Christine Underwood, and after Mrs. Underwood is John Watt.
Honorable Vice Mayor and members of the City Council, my name is Christine Underwood, and I'm a junior at First Colonial High School. This year, I have had the privilege to serve as a student advocate to the Virginia Beach City Public Library Board. I would like to thank you not only for the opportunity to speak in front of you today, but for the numerous opportunities that the Virginia Beach Public Library Board has offered to me throughout my life. From a young age, I was taught to appreciate reading and various academic and cultural learning opportunities through programs provided by the library. As a small child, my grandparents would take me to the youth programs offered by the numerous libraries throughout the city. Whether it was learning about butterfly gardens, creating an art project, or simply having a story read aloud to me, the library has been the source of many wonderful memories. Through the library, I have been able to develop a sense of belonging and connection to my community here in Virginia Beach. I am proud to share that within the next few years, there are many new programs being offered through the public library. Whether it be Science Play Day, the Halloween Extravaganza, or providing children the opportunity to play the ukulele, I would like to ask for your support to provide the next generation of Virginia Beach citizens the possibility to participate in a safe environment in which the love of reading and education is encouraged. The upcoming plans, if approved by the council, will open up online library card registration and convert 3 part-time library specialist positions to 3 full-time specialist positions. These plans will allow the current students in Virginia Beach of all ages and abilities a diverse array of programs and assistance. These new additions will not only encourage youth development, but promote participation in services offered by the public library within the entire family. I look forward to the future of the library and would like to thank you again for the opportunities afforded to me by the greatest city in the world. Thank you.
John Watt, and after Mr. Watt is Tim Worst.
Good evening. My name is John Watt, proud member of the Virginia Beach Tea Party, and I have a few comments on school construction and funding for full-day kindergarten. Why are our new schools costing so much? It has to be more than simply differences in labor and material costs. I won't repeat the cost per square foot numbers that were presented earlier, except to say that the representative costs of Kellum and Princess Anne Middle Replacement School are outrageously expensive and unsustainable for future new construction. We must and can do a far better job of controlling costs while still delivering quality schools. The required specifications for all future new construction must be based on solid needs, not wants. Requirements creep is a very real thing and it is very easy to fall into, but someone has to occasionally say no. We need this fixed. Second subject, full-day kindergarten for all elementary schools. Last spring, the Virginia Beach School Board requested $14 million for full-day kindergarten. In July last year, City Council approved $6.75 million, which was funded by a property tax increase. As of last November, the actual budget called for only $2.1 million for full-day kindergarten. The rest of the funds, totaling $4.65 million, were diverted for one-time spending for other stuff. Buses, various capital improvements, classroom technology, etc., but not kindergarten teacher salaries. This diversion of funds imperils the public trust that must exist between citizens and their elected representatives. This trust must be earned by years of keeping promises, honoring one's words, and living up to the highest standards of integrity. When full-day kindergarten is held up as the basis for a property tax increase, and nearly 69% of it ends up funding something else, a cynic could call this bait and switch. We understand that priorities change and emergency funding requests occur, but we would also add that it is our money being spent. We are fully supportive of ensuring all resources and programs that are necessary to meet high academic standards are provided, but this must be done in a fiscally responsible manner. Thank you.
Tim Worst, and after Mr. Worst is Richard Kowalowitz.
Good evening. My name is Tim Worst. I'm a Princess Anne District resident. I'm here to support Mr. Moss, Mrs. Abbott, and Mr. Dyer's alternative budget proposal. If there had to be a referendum on this, I would predict the same outcome as light rail. The 12-month residents of Virginia Beach would vote yes to this alternative budget and no to this proposed budget. Your budget increases trash fees, stormwater fees, vehicle license fees, personal property increases. My guess is that this money would be spent on the tourist. We say yes to the public safety pay so that the fire department alone can get this fair pay that they've been asking for years. And I appreciate all of the speakers tonight from the fire department and our men in blue that are behind us tonight. We say yes to the increasing the money for the stormwater maintenance and the help with the flooding. You as a majority of City Council would not wait 10 to 15 minutes to help developers, hotel owners, or Bruce Thompson, but yet you are allowing the citizens of Virginia Beach to wait 10 to 15 years for help on flooding, and that's wrong. Speaking of the citizens of Virginia Beach who were flooded out of their homes, Council took money from the ARP for the light rail. Why can't Council take some of that excess ARP money and help with flooding assistance now? Or better yet, just stop wasting all these tax dollars on development projects that don't help us 12-month residents. I'm what Mayor Sessoms calls a naysayer. The legacy he leaves for me and my kids is debt. I don't fall for the line of we have the lowest real estate property tax rate. Have you seen your own assessments? I don't fall for it because of the ridiculous amount of what we pay for stormwater, sewage, trash fees, parking at the beach as a resident. I encourage council to approve the alternative budget as your seats are no longer secure. The citizens have real choices in all of these council races in November, and a lot of them. They will elect candidates that represent them, us, the citizens, and not special interest. Since my beeper hasn't gone off yet, I'd like to say what a great idea Mr. Bly had on that VB.gov page, where the city's debt would be updated daily. That would be a real note taker to see that amount of money every day adding up. We need to get out of that debt and help the 12-month residents here at Virginia Beach. Thank you.
R.K. Kowalewicz, and then Scott Prentice.
Good evening. John, thank you for what you did with that alternative budget. I know it's way out of the box. You didn't have to do that. I appreciate what you and Jessica did and Bobby for supporting as well. You know, I've heard a lot tonight. Of course, in 18 years I've been involved in politics, there's one theme I've always heard is our public servants, whether it be our firefighters or our police officers, whatever it is, this compression thing. And I'm saying to you guys, I've heard it now for 18 years. It's the same story. Police department underfunded, undermanned. Where's the money going, guys? Well, I know where it's going, and you know where it's going, too. It's time for a change, guys. Time for a change. This is a joke. 16 taxes and fees. Mr. Lewis Jones, a fee is a tax. I don't care how you spin it. It's a tax. It's come out of taxpayers' money. It's not right. These are hard times for people right now. Our incomes are not increasing. They're declining. The resort tourism is down 30% in room rentals since the year 2000. That's a fact. The only thing that's up is the cost of the rooms. What's amazing to me, you can come out here and ask the citizens to pay for more money, but yet you can come up with $200 million to fund all your special interest groups without one proof that they benefit the public. All they create is a liability, so they cost us more money. This has got to stop. Let me tell you something. In the years since the year 2000, we've had no growth in the city population-wise. It's stagnant or up a little bit at best. The only thing that's increased is our budget is doubled plus doubled in this town, and our taxes have went through the roof. It's time to stop the nonsense. Live within your means. You work for the people, not the special interest, John. Or maybe you do, I'm not sure. But it's time it stops. Do not vote for a budget that has any tax increases. Tighten your belt. Live within your means like the rest of us have to do every single day. John, thank you for what you've done. Bobby, thank you for supporting. Tell Jessica I said thanks a lot.
Scott Prentice, and then Reed Greenman.
Council, Mr. Hanson, thank you. Appreciate this opportunity to go. I'm going to address a little bit on the compression issue. Not that you have heard anything about that before. I work for the fire department. I've been with the fire department for over 32 years. I've been a captain, coming up here on 14 years, come up in July. My issue is new captains coming up in at this time, even promoted as low as 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and a month in the past year that are making thousands of dollars more than I am as a captain, and that have half the tenure that I have within the city. Just looking for a little help in that, and appreciate everything you've done and everything you've done for us in the department. Thank you.
Reed Greenman, and then Paul Moore.
Good evening, members of City Council, City Manager Hanson.
This is my 21st time speaking to you at an annual budget hearing. And as so many people have told you tonight, I've heard the pay compression problem, and it's never been solved. Your job is to do the basic functions that are in our city charter. I hope you've read it. I have. You've heard over and over tonight about your priorities being on wants instead of needs. Taking care of the roads, taking care of flooding, taking care of public safety. That's your job. I mean, I've said this over and over. Priorities, priorities, priorities. I'm with the Virginia Beach Tea Party. I support the Moss Abbott Dyer budget. I'd like to say that a good example of what you're doing poorly is the $10 million you gave away to City View in Town Center. What are you thinking? $10 million tax incentives for yet another apartment development we don't really need? This is just exemplary. All-day kindergarten. You guys approved that with no facts. And what wasn't mentioned was $20 million got given back afterwards. That money wasn't needed, but that tax was frittered away. I called and asked, what buses are you going to buy? They laughed and said, we don't know. We'll figure it out. That's not a joke. That's what the comptroller told me. You hearing me, right? You're not doing your jobs. Barbara, the ARP has got to stop. This is ridiculous, wasting our money on things like that. It's absolutely not a priority compared to keeping the water out of people's homes. Last year in this budget hearing, a woman stood up here and told you how her animals drowned and she had to go home after the flood of her home and rescue her drowned cats. What have you done since then? Told us it's going to take 15 years and promoted whack-a-mole after whack-a-mole special interest project for millions of dollars to benefit a very small people. A pier, a Ferris wheel, a wave pool. The list goes on and on. But the roads are still in lack of repair. The flooding is not solved, Mr. Hansen, and we have a ton of problems. So I guess what I'm saying to you tonight is your budget isn't a budget at all. A budget is when you have a fixed amount of money and you set priorities and spend it. Year after year, you give us a spending plan and borrow more money to make up the difference for wants instead of needs. A budget. We live within a budget, Barbara. When you jack up my taxes and fees, I don't have any other place to go to get that money. And the people living on fixed income in this city, and there's a lot of them, retired military, police, and city workers, they don't have anywhere to go to get that money either. But you're very cavalier with it. And as someone else said, our population is flatlined, but our budget is sky-rised. Stop what you're doing and have better priorities. Thank you.
Paul Moore, and after Mr. Moore will be Ken Cord.
So, good evening, Mr. Hansen, members of the City Council. My name is Paul Moore. I'm a Virginia Beach firefighter. So I figured that by this time, a lot of important things would have already been said. So I thought about how on this forum to make good use of my time. And the best thing I came up is with this. Yeah, I'll write a rhyme. There's always challenges in public service budgeting and fiscal responsibility, which everybody knows. But I'm here for us firefighters and our cause. So here's how it goes. If Virginia Beach firefighters were paid by the sheer number of responses to fires, some might say we'd all be broke. And when we claimed about being underpaid, no one would listen every time we spoke. So today I'm going to talk about firefighters and what we do as a whole without debate. Ones I see work hard every day to make a difference and make the city of Virginia Beach great. See, I've only been here 2 years and come from a department where sometimes good customer service comes at a cost. Through collective bargaining and binding arbitration, that without these, the former may be lost. So my fire service experience is a tale of two unions, formerly one weak and one strong, both with the same mission in the long run. But the weaker one is strengthened by dedicated and committed individuals that serve it in a department like no other and make Virginia Beach Fire Department second to none. like the captain who didn't care that it wasn't an emergency call, to do a little bit more and stop the engine to help a motorist for his safety, change a tire on Interstate 264, and that's dangerous. Another one who found it necessary to voluntarily use 5 days of his precious leave time from his kids and his wife to improve his knowledge and skills at outside training in case one day he needs that to save a life. Or the firefighters during the hurricane who used waist-high flood water they were standing in. How's that for a job perk? When they had no choice but to improvise, come up with a plan to put out the fire, and then make that plan work. Now, I know it's part of what we're paid to do, show up fast and be prepared to handle any type of call on the fly. But if you think deploying ladders to windows in floodwaters and climbing in the search for victims in soaking wet gear is easy, I invite you all to give it a try. Then there's the firefighter who picked up an elderly gentleman who was naked and soiled in feces. It was me. And had the ambulance crew stand by outside the bedroom while we helped hold him up, and we cleaned him to save his dignity. As his wife cleaned him with all the love she had while fighting back her own issues, I swore I would continue to be compassionate and understanding on lift assist.
Your time's up, sir.
And wish I could do more. Just give me 30 seconds, please.
Sorry, your time's up, sir.
And finally, the firefighters who voluntarily help children build their skills and esteem through working with the Virginia Beach Fire Explorer program so they can reach their potential and dreams. These are only
Please,
a
we
few
have to be
things.
fair to everybody. Thank you.
Ken Cord. And after Mr. Cord is Yvonne Cord.
Mr. Moore, can you leave that with the city clerk so we can see it and see the rest of it? Thank you.
Before I start my 3 minutes, I want something addressed. Ms. Wilson, why are you spending so much time on your cell phone? What is more important than listening to the people? And this also goes to Ms. Kane and Mr. Hanson. As far as with the whole budget, really? I at least like to have Mr. Moss's proposed budget in, but I doubt it. $25.5 million on a pier project, $1 million to rail to trail Agenda 21 project, which assists to implement a region, which means if we turn into a region, then we start losing representation. $11.5 million on an SGA project, which has no image. On your own PDF document, I'd like to know why. I'd like to know what it is. $900,000 to Town Center reinvestment, $2.1 million to Town Center garage and plaza capital and maintenance 2, $3.7 million to CHKD property, which is the bio facility. I know it's their property because I was one of the construction workers on that site. So why are we giving that money to them? Oh, I know, to create more jobs. $8.8 million, forgot to write down what that one was about, but that was there. $2.9 million to the amphitheater. Why? $55 million to the arena, aka the VB Sports Center, which is the same property. So you can't say that, oh, that's another project. No, it's the same one. $8.3 million to Winston-Salem Avenue acquisition. Why? Why are you buying up more property? $1.9 million to 19th Street, $10.1 million to Burton Station to create a road that goes back behind some businesses for higher density, to create more traffic problems, to create more problems for firefighters and everybody else that tries to get to emergency situations. Why? Which totals $127.8 million. I found a document just before I came here, thanks to Ms. Allen. She posted it. I got the screenshot of it. So this is your document. Dedication of local revenues. Real estate, personal property tax, restaurant meals, and hotels for fiscal 18 to 19. That one there is $852 million. That's about almost 6 to 7 times that $127 million. What is y'all's issue? I know it's not enough. and then you want to keep increasing the fees? I told you guys once a while back when we had the meeting at the school regarding the flooding, y'all's arrogance will be your downfall. And it's already happening. Mr. Sessoms isn't going to go away. He's going to be working behind the closed doors with y'all, with his buddies.
Yvonne Cord. And then after Mrs. Cord is Joe Wool.
Good evening. I'm Yvonne Cord. We live in Princess Anne Plaza. Our house flooded, and because of that, we spend an extra $500 a month in SBA loan fees, flood insurance, storage fees. And I know that doesn't sound like a lot of money to you, but it puts food on our table that's now not there. And with all these fee increases and everything and the taxes, it makes it worse. My husband makes a little more now than he did a few years ago, but we're actually behind. And then, I wonder where some of these taxes are coming from. And about 2 weeks ago, I went and I spent some money on something and found out that we were taxed 3 ways: the state, the city, and Virginia District, whatever that is. And I want to know, what is that and where does it go? I was appalled when I went back through my receipt. Why should I be taxed 3 times instead of 2? Doesn't make sense. We get farther and farther behind. Thank you.
Joe Wool.
Hello, and thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Joe Wool, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to address you tonight. I'm here because the proposed budget does not allocate the funds needed to address stormwater management and flooding in this great city. When many of the neighborhoods, such as mine, were developed, this city was in its infancy, and little was known about the effects of stormwater runoff. At that time, I'm sure that it made perfect sense to route the stormwater to the surrounding creeks and tributaries that border most of our neighborhoods. For many years, this system worked, but any system without proper maintenance is doomed to fail. As our population increased, the natural environment has been replaced by asphalt and concrete, placing a greater burden on our stormwater system. Pipes have been replaced and more drains have been introduced to accommodate the ever-increasing demand, but the creeks that handle the runoff have never been maintained. Now, if any of you have the opportunity to utilize a push broom in the street in front of your house, just as an experiment, you would see firsthand the amount of sediment that flows into our drains. The sediment eventually finds its way into the creeks. Also, for many years in most neighborhoods, it was common practice to dump yard debris and grass and leaves and unwanted items into the creeks. And 50-plus years of this has, of course, taken its toll. The result in my neighborhood of Kings Forest is that the creek, which used to boast a mean low water, the lowest low tide depth of 7 foot, is now inches at low water and 3 foot at high tide. The stormwater drains, which used to be above the water surface even at high tide, are now silted in, which restricts the flow, which will and does lead to flooding. Also, because the drains are restricted, the runoff has to build back pressure in the system to overcome the reduced flow, resulting in a more forceful current during rain events. This leads to erosion of the banks and the creeks, undermines root systems of the trees, which are steadily falling into the creek, which creates dams, further blocking the stormwater system. There is some evidence that some parties may have known about the problem and have chosen either not to address it or have not been responsible developers or stewards of their property. I choose to focus on the solution and what needs to be done. Immediately, we need to remove debris and down trees from our creeks. This will enable the free flow of runoff, which will carry sediment out of the congested areas. If this proves insufficient, dredging must also occur. We need to, as a city, maintain our waterways, which is the cornerstone of our stormwater management system. Every citizen pays into the Stormwater Management Fund every month, and every citizen benefits from the roads not flooding. Please introduce into the budget funds to maintain our waterways, specifically Buchanan Creek, bordering Kings Forest neighborhood where the Birchwood Gardens STP once stood to promote a healthy environment and maintain our quality of life. Thank you.
Sorry. I'm trying to make it stop. Jay Leach.
Ladies and gentlemen of City Council, Mr. City Manager, my name is Jay Leach. I retired this past summer from teaching for 28 years. The last 20 of those 28 years, I've taught political science as well as economics. And specifically in both of my classes, we have followed the budget process at a local level, at a state level, and at a national level. And I just wanted to come here to this podium right now and say thank you for your hard work and for the service that you give to our community. Oftentimes in these settings, we hear nothing but negative comments. And I came in a little while ago and touched base with a couple friends, and I felt compelled to come and again spend time to thank you for your tireless work, because having watched, studied, and taught this process for a long time, I know how difficult it can be. And again, oftentimes we don't hear from the silent majority. Oftentimes we only hear from the negative aspects of the minority. And we all need a little pat on the back and reassurance. And I know what you all do, it's a struggle. It's hard. You're never going to make everybody happy. But you know, my feeling is that most of you all in your day-to-day operations are always working out for the best interest of what you think our city should do. And I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
That's all the speakers, sir. That's all the speakers, yes.
Are there any other people who want to speak? If not, yes, sir. Please come forward. Would you identify yourself, please?
Dennis Lloyd, 4941 Payne Lane. I was shocked that nobody mentioned very little was mentioned about the police department. And I do side with Councilman Moss and Abbott and Dyer. But I want to also bring out something that no one talks about. People, taxation takes freedom. Freedom is the issue. And every time money is misspent and taxes go up, it takes away freedom. Okay? The purpose of city government is not so much, it's protection, provision, and order. That's the real thing that helps secure freedom. Freedom for all of us. And thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else who would like to speak before we close the session? Yes, sir. Please
Yes, thank you
identify
for being
yourself.
here, and thank you for your hard work. My name is Gary Hubbard. I'm a Navy veteran, and I'm a construction contractor, and I've seen my city grow since 1981, some for the good and some for the bad. One thing I know as a businessman, we look forward to different projects and different opportunities that we want to pursue. Number one, you cannot tax yourself out of debt. We have got a tax and spend problem. So we need to look at the budget to make sure that we understand what our needs and priorities are. Our infrastructure is old, it's outdated, concrete and steel does not last forever. Our retention ponds, our holding ponds, you cannot percolate concrete or asphalt. So we need to make sure we have the storm runoff where we need to put it. And quite frankly, I don't think we're looking at the priorities right. We have to address flooding. Climate change is real, sea level rise is real. We need to understand that consumer confidence in spending, if we have attractions that are no longer viable for people to come here, they'll go to Myrtle Beach, they'll go somewhere else. Our attractions need to be reasonable. We need to be within our budget. The very idea that you think you can keep raising taxes on the sand taxes, from cigarettes to liquor to personal property tax to storm drainage to storm runoff fees, these are things that we have to address. We cannot, will not, should not keep raising taxes in the hopes that we can balance our budget. These are things that we've got to look at. The budget needs to be looked at. And for a construction contractor, I've seen the developers, I've worked with different ones. Matter of fact, the very company that built this, Turner Construction, we know. So each building, each aspect of any needs or wants that you have has to stand on its own merits. We can't keep funding or giving out tax breaks for people, the large contractors that do not need it. And I thank you for your time, and that's all I have to say.
Anybody else want to speak? Thank you all very much for being here tonight. The meeting is adjourned.